Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is something to really start working on. Actually, when I think about openings, I feel like there is like three levels of knowing an opening. Like level one is just understanding the basic theory. Like what are the actual moves and variations? What are the main lines in the dragon, for example, and what are the different tries?
Yeah.
Level two is what we're kind of talking about now. Is like the middle games, understanding the structures, what kind of plans you're typically playing for, understanding nuances. Oh, in this type of position, we want to trade darkshore bishops. In this type of position, we want to get the b5 break, things like this. And then level three is kind of like, okay, you know level one and two, you know all the theory, you know all of the ideas, and now it's like actually like coming up with like new ways of playing the positions, like novelties and stuff like that, or coming up with like your little improvements or your little pet lines, things that you feel like are not perhaps super explored, but you kind of think like, oh, well, this looks interesting to me. This is a plan I can follow during the game, and so that's when you're actually like adding to the opening theory. So it seems like you're definitely at like level two, and this is something like definitely you could think about starting to work on.
Interesting. So how do you get from level two to level three? Because I actually was thinking about this recently. Um, it's always been a little bit foreign to me how people uh, write opening books, for example. I feel like I almost never have that feeling of like ownership that would be required to write an opening book with confidence. Like I always feel in the opening that it's important for me to be able to copy some book or some high level game.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, it definitely requires like um, a lot of understanding. It's like a huge research project to do this like deep opening work. I would say when it comes to like finding new moves, like novelties or something, a lot of times it's just a player that's trying out a thematic idea in a position where it hasn't been tried before. So nowadays you'll see everyone trying like h4 in different positions. As long as the pawn is on g6, h4 will now be a move that like can be
Yeah.
played. And we see like in the Grunfeld, we see it in King's Indian. Grischuk played it on like move three a couple times last year, and like I mean at like the highest levels. Um, and so a lot of times it's like thematic ideas that players just want to try in different positions just to see like, okay, this was working in one position, does it work here? And that's how a lot of novelties you'll find will be found. Like, okay, there was some model game and like that MVL game, like, oh, he had this like f5 break at some point. And so if you're looking at the opening, you might consider this f5 move at different stages, maybe two moves earlier, if you can get away with it. So a lot of times the novelty is like not like all that creative. It's really just well, it's definitely leaving the engine on and just choosing between the top moves and just seeing like which one of these is the most interesting. I think that's how a lot
Yeah.
of like openings nowadays are developed, especially with Leela in the picture. That's suggesting like ideas that are not just based on calculation, but based on some kind of artificial understanding. Nowadays, yeah, I think players are coming up with very interesting ideas thanks to this kind of engine. Um, but it definitely comes from like a base of understanding, and I think an important part of training is whenever you feel like, okay, you're going to be playing this type of middle game again, it's very important that you understand like how to play the position. What's your plan? What is the opponent's plan? What kinds of pieces are you often willing to exchange? And this mainly comes from like studying games. I've always been a fan of studying annotated games, like in ChessBase and Mega Database. They'll have like a bunch of annotated games that you can go through. They're kind of hit or miss. Some are more useful than others. But a really good annotated game I think is worth so much because they'll just go through all the nuances. Like, oh, in this position they always played this move before this move because in 1987, Shabalov showed this, and this. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like oh wow. It's just like I mean, it can be fascinating, but it's also just like very very practical. And the more of these like little ideas you glean, then it becomes a lot easier to play them in the game because you'll often learn like little rules. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you use chess publishing at all? Chesspublishing.com?
I've definitely seen some of their stuff. I feel like it is pretty interesting for the most part. It's a great way to just like give yourself like some new ideas in the opening, basically. I definitely don't think you need to be doing a lot of like super deep opening work. I think for you, it's definitely more of just figuring out what your repertoire is, like what you want to play, and then just playing a lot of games and going through like trials and tribulations. How long have you been
Yeah.
playing the King's Indian, by the way?